Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media Expert Series. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event on looking around the AI corner. The revolution is coming, how to position yourself to benefit. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping items that will help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in our webinar control panel. Not only will we have team members responding to questions during the live event, but we'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we'll discuss in greater detail some of the top questions that come in. The Q&A panel is also the place to just say hello, which a lot of you have been doing already. We love to hear where you're logging in from. And it's also the place to let us know if we can help in the unlikely event that you have any technical issues. A browser refresh will fix most issues, but if that doesn't work, just let us know there in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Now, at the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. Official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. Now, these expert series events are special product neutral looks at pressing technology problems presented by an expert in the field, but the support of our sponsors makes it possible for us to bring you this content. So we want to give a special shout out to our sponsors today. So over the next few slides, I'm going to share some messages from our sponsors, and they'll refer to the links that you can find in the handout section of your console at any time during the presentation. Now, as always, the handout section also has a few valuable Actual Tech Media links. There's a link to the Gorilla Guide Book Club where you can get access to Actual Tech Media's great printed resources on technology topics. There's also a link to the ATM Event Center, which has our calendar of upcoming events like this one. So now, before we get into the main presentation, a few words from our sponsors. We are supported by Pure Storage. In a data-rich world, shared data is infinitely more valuable than stored data. Pure Storage accelerates modern analytics and AI workloads, delivering a single, scale-out storage platform that drives time to insight and action for data-driven businesses. Let's keep the conversation going. Scan that QR code now and pick a convenient meeting time that works with your schedule. Today's event is also sponsored by Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks is the world cybersecurity leader. They envision a world where each day is safer than the one before. Their next-gen security solutions, expert services, and industry-leading threat intelligence empower organizations across every sector to transform with confidence. Join Palo Alto for their upcoming AI Ops event on August 22nd to learn all about enabling AI in your security. And so you can register at that QR code. And I also want to mention that in the handout section, you can find links that these QR codes went to as well. So I realize I clicked through them pretty quickly here, but you can find those links in the handout section throughout the presentation here. Okay. With that, let's get to today's fantastic content. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenter today. We have Howard M. Cohen. Howard's got a ton of experience with technology vendors, channel companies, and as an executive consultant and author. So I've known Howard for a long time. He's got one of the broadest perspectives on technology of anyone I know. He's one of the first people I knew to identify artificial intelligence ops, AI ops, as a key field. And he's been focused on the implications of artificial intelligence as an area of research and writing focus for a few years now, which makes him the perfect person to help us look around the corner today at what's coming in AI. Howard, welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you for blowing my head completely up out of proportion. Yeah, I've clearly got to get myself a QR code to put on my header slide here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, in blowing your head up is good. I mean, we want to, you know, we're counting on you to sort of expand your mind and help us all see what's coming with AI. So I'll turn things over to you and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Um, it's an interesting time in AI. I was commenting to Scott before the show that this feels very familiar. It feels like the dawn of cloud, the dawn of the internet, the dawn of video conferencing, so many different technologies where there's so much information exploding out all around us, and we don't know what to believe, what not to believe. There's a ton of products and new initiatives, and it's really hard to figure out where to put your focus, which is basically why folks like you have folks like me who spend all of our time doing that because we don't have a day job. Seriously. Um, it is challenging and it is fun to explore where people are going with it. And I thought in this session, I would start off by sharing my observation that artificial intelligence is the ultimate digital transformation resource. Yes, I've combined two buzz phrases there. I couldn't help myself. I couldn't find a way to work in cloud or big data or even BYOD, but these two are enough. Artificial intelligence is the ultimate digital transformation resource. That is to say, it is meant to do, well, I guess I should start by defining digital transformation. To me, a digital transformation is using technology, applying technology to make it easier, better, faster, and more rewarding and more fulfilling for people to do what they do, whether it's living, working, or playing, mainly working. So the things that we do that are repetitive and time consuming, boy, we can hand that off to artificial intelligence and things like sorting and whatnot. There's just plenty of tasks that AI can pick up for us. And then we can be free to do the work that's more interesting, more challenging, and more fun. Um, Artificial intelligence is the best expression yet of the kind of automation it takes to do that kind of thing. And by the way, I suggest that we stop thinking about digital transformation because we're really not changing as much as we're improving. So it's digital improvement, using digital technologies to improve our own lives. And to me, that is the whole purpose of developing artificial intelligence. So clicking back into my regular rhythm, I like to start every presentation with a word of the day. I guess it's the writer in me, but I think words are very important. And of course, as you see it, and by the way, this slide is presented in honor of our host, Scott Becker, who lives to see this slide. Hey, Scott.
I very much appreciate it, Howard. Thank you.
So the word of the day obviously is bacon. No, it's not bacon. That's not the word of the day today. But everybody loves bacon. I mean, who doesn't love bacon? The same can be said of data. Everybody loves data. Data is what it's all about. Data is where technology turns into making money. And so everybody loves data. And that's why people do say that data is the new bacon. And to share one simple truth about AI with you, AI is amongst you. AI devours data. You have a picture of a computer chewing up some bacon now. AI devours data. It consumes and ingests as much as it can so that it can process all of it and see if it can find anything useful to add to its knowledge, and it devours data. The function of AI is to automate decisions and actions, right? So it builds up all the information necessary to support our ability as people to make the best possible decision and take the most effective possible action. It can be said that artificial intelligence provides actionable insights and actionable intelligence. So AI. And here's a build that didn't work. Okay, where does the data come from? It comes from a variety of places, including customer search histories, purchase histories, location data, emails, call center interactions. Notice that all of those are data you already have. They're already in your storage somewhere. And AI can help you make better use of them and get more value out of them. Social media is very readily available to you, and it can go out there and collect information about all your customers or anybody else you want to see what they're sharing on social media, and add that to what it knows about each of the people you interact with. More data you own, marketing campaign data, time of day. What time of day do customers make purchases? What time of day do they come to a retail store? What time of day do they call for help? By learning more about what time of day people do things, we can do a better job of allocating resources to be prepared for it. Customer sentiment data, all those surveys that we circulate amongst customers. Sales data, industry report, a whole bunch of stuff. And this is just scratching the surface of the data sources that are available to us. One of the great quotes that I pulled from a recent blog in the Pure Storage blog, one of our sponsors. The blog post is called AI Readiness is Not an Option, which I think is one of the drivers for them sponsoring this session. But they're saying that, well, first of all, they're saying that businesses are data drenched and data driven. And if you're sitting there thinking, no, my business isn't, think again and really consider how you feel about that. Because if you look around you, everybody's data, everybody's business is becoming more and more data driven. How can we make better use of the data we already have to make better decisions and more productive actions? But it's saying that they need to leverage AI for success, sustainability, and survivability. That would include generative AI, ChatGPT-like applications, but there is also much, much more. It's basically saying that AI is a survival strategy. Your competition's doing it, and you have to keep ahead of them. So what I'm hoping to accomplish today is give you a framework for thinking about how you go about learning what you need to learn and doing what you need to do to prepare for integrating more and more AI and ML into your business. So there are 5 V's of data that we concern ourselves with when we're consuming all of this data into AI. The first, and the one that's most obvious to everybody, is the volume of data. I mean, we talk about the data produced in the last 2 years was greater than all the data produced in the entire history of mankind before that. That's not far from true. We are generating data at an unbelievable rate, an unimaginable rate. And every one of us will have more and more of that data, our own chunks of it that we have to deal with. So the volume of data we need to manage is getting significantly bigger all the time. The velocity at which we have to move it obviously grows with it. The more you have to move, the faster you got to move it to get it all to where it's got to go. Because it's when it gets there that things start to happen. You know, I like to say all the time that data only makes money in motion. If you have data sitting in storage somewhere, it's not really doing much for you. On the other hand, if you're using it to create decisions and create actions, that's when you start to see, real profit coming out of your use of data. So we have to move it, and we have to move it fast. And these days, we're moving a big variety of data. It's not just text, but there's voice, there's video, there's telemetry of all kinds. It's, analog to digital data is coming back as sensors get deployed in more places. We also have to be concerned with the veracity of the data. It was about 1 million years ago that the first computer programmer, Ook, a caveman, said that garbage in, garbage out. GIGO. That's as true today as it ever has been. And so we need to be concerned with what we're letting our AIs ingest. If they ingest the wrong things, we can end up with AIs that are having hallucinations, which has been reported in many cases. What they're saying isn't true. but it's based on what they ingested. So we have to be concerned about the quality. And then finally, the thing we need to be concerned most is value, as always. What's the value that we're able to extract from all this data that we're feeding in to our artificial intelligence engines? So those are the 5 V's of data, and that last one, value, is one to keep front of mind at all times. Am I moving toward value, or am I ignoring it? Because all too many of us get so busy that we forget to keep our focus on the value of what we're doing. So these days, right now, we really see AI as a hammer, right? It's something that you apply to get something done. And as with a hammer, well, a hammer becomes is completely useless to us until we find it a nail, right? If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, you got to find that hammer a nail. Otherwise, the hammer is doing nothing. And the same is true for AI. Fact of the matter is, these days, it's all about the nail. It's all about applications of AI. How do we use AI? And even beyond applications, it's all about useful applications. Right now we've seen people rendering beautiful, improved photographs of themselves, looking like Norse gods, which is, I guess, fun, but not exactly going to produce a whole lot of results. We've seen people have things written for them, which is okay. Transferring information is good. But we really need to start looking for the really useful, valuable applications that AI can help us solve. So if we're building a wooden structure, we obviously have need for plenty of nails, and therefore we found a use for our hammer. Same thing with AI. The question we need to be asking ourselves is, what are the things we need done that artificial intelligence can really help us with, the really important applications? So I recommend, don't think engine as much as you think application. We know that it's all about the data, but the data doesn't do a thing until we have an application to do it with. So, based on all of this, our first step in the journey toward AI is understanding. We really need to understand what AI is. So we build up a working definition of the phrase artificial intelligence. To do that, I thought I'd go back in the Wayback Machine to the distant past and introduce you to computer scientist John McCarthy, who in 1955, yes, the deep past, I'll share with you, that was the year I was born, so we're talking about a long time ago. But he told us that it's this, artificial intelligence, which he is credited with defining, is the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, intelligent computer programs. For him, it was all about intelligence. And indeed, that is still the goal. I will suggest to you that we haven't achieved it yet. What we have right now is search on steroids, terrific software running on hardware that helps us find answers faster and perhaps gives us more deep insight into the answers. He points out, frighteningly, that it's using computers to understand human intelligence, but it doesn't have to confine itself to that. It can go further than human intelligence. And isn't that what everybody's panicking about? So thank you very much, Dr. John McCarthy. Going a little further back, we come to the famous computer scientist, English computer scientist, cryptanalyst, mathematician, theoretical biologist. I hear he was also a great cook. Alan Turing, the inventor of the Turing machine and the Turing method. Turing asked us the question, can machines think? And he asked us that question all the way back in 1950, even before McCarthy. And he hoped at that point, he said we may hope, that machines will eventually compete with us. in intellectual fields. And that it was difficult to decide where to start. He suggested chess, which we know Watson mastered several years ago now. Watson is like the foremost grandmaster of chess in the world today. And it's an AI engine. He also suggested that we could provide the best sense organs available to a machine and let it teach itself and then teach it to understand and speak English so it can communicate back to us. Of course, Turing chose English, not just human language. He said that it could follow the normal teaching of a child. And indeed, machine learning does that right now. It ingests the data and performs a lot of the processes we all perform in digesting, categorizing, classifying, and drawing inferences from the data. He wasn't sure which way to go with it. But he did say, and I thought this was so prophetic, we can only see a short distance ahead, but we can see plenty there that needs to be done. And I think that's where we are today. We all are imagining incredible applications that we have that we think AI can tackle for us. And we're at the point now where we're developing the necessary data and to some extent the necessary software to make that happen. So Turing gave us a lot of great insight. Coming back toward it, IBM, coming back to today, IBM has given us recently a much crisper, more contemporary definition of AI, which is it's a field which combines computer science and robust data sets to enable problem solving. You're going to see a lot of that emphasis on the robust data sets. Again, it's all about the data. AI is all about the data. That's where we are going to put the majority of our work into AI. I'll cover that soon. It includes machine learning and deep learning, which we'll also talk about. And basically, it's a set of algorithms. It's a computer program. It's software. And these algorithms are used to create expert systems, which can make predictions based on clarifications, classifications, and all coming from the data that's input into the model. So that's IBM's best approximation of a clear definition of AI today. Then we take a look at machine learning, which we just found out is a component of AI. And we recognize Professor Arthur Samuel, who was working at the International Business Machines Company, at IBM, in 1959 when he coined the term machine learning, which basically gives the computer the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. Now, the early efforts were called heuristic programming. I actually studied heuristic programming in the 1970s. It was sticks and bones. It was primitive compared to what we have today. But it was literally 1959 that we first started talking about teaching machines how they could learn on their own. IBM, of course, has a contemporary definition for machine learning, too. It's an important component of the field of data science. They see data scientists using machine learning to let a machine ingest all the data they're working with and help them make classifications that will lead to better predictions. That drive decision making, which is what we're all here for. Make it easier for executives to make the decisions they have to make to drive the business forward. We know that the market demand for data scientists is growing geometrically. This is a suggestion that machine learning and artificial intelligence will be valid and valuable tools for the next generation of data scientists. And while we're at it, let's mention deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning using multiple layers to do more intricate analysis and to draw more intricate inferences and better, more accurate predictions. So they're already integrating deep learning technology into a variety of products, and I think we're going to see a whole lot more coming soon in the field of deep learning. So if AI is search on steroids, deep learning may be machine learning on steroids. Also, let's just provide the IBM definition of generative AI. It uses machine learning to bring in the data, and generative AI processes that data to create answers, to provide insights into the relationships between different things involved in the data. So as a good example, if we ask ChatGPT a question, ChatGPT will go out and have its machine learning suck in relevant information through search engines across the entire internet if we give it access to the entire internet. And it will then take the salient points and turn it into a summary that is consumable by you and me. That's generative AI. Notice it talks about models, like the foundational model. Basically, we've all heard that all of AI is based on large language models, LLM. And indeed, the LLM is basically a set of data that is specifically designed to help the AI handle a particular task. It focuses on making it easy to use natural language programming, so you can ask questions in natural language. You can converse, if you will, with the generative AI engine. We're going to see going forward that choosing the correct LLM or building the right LLM for a particular function is going to become a very important process in the AI world. This is what we're going to spend a lot of our time doing, preparing for AI to take on some tasks for us. Again, it's all about the data. And indeed, AI doesn't do anything without having access to the right data. We're already seeing legal action starting to ramp up because people don't want their data sucked in across the internet into a large language model for use without paying for it. So we're going to see a lot of things change in the internet, and a lot of it's going to be legal. So be prepared for that. Foundational models, if you will, look to be the next step from LLMs, where we build larger, more sweeping models that will enable a generative AI engine to perform a much broader selection of capabilities, not necessarily as focused as an LLM, but rather more of a generalist approach. And there are models now, GPT-3 and now 4 have large foundational models, so they're able to tackle anything a typical user throws their way, if you will. This is obviously going to get better and better and better. Okay, so now I think we've got a good grounding in the terminology that we see coming out all the time about artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, large language models. All of this is hopefully a little bit clearer. And again, I don't usually keep that many words on a slide in my presentations, but you will be able to retrieve this presentation on video. I think you'll also be able to obtain this deck if you want it. I felt those notes would be helpful to you to refer to as you move forward in your studies of AI. Next, I want to talk about what I like to call the heavy lifts, the things that we're going to have to do if we're going to move forward in a meaningful way to use AI and ML and related technologies. So in a recent IBM survey, which kind of helps illustrate these heavy lifts, 34% of those surveyed were concerned that They have limited AI skills. They don't have the expertise or the knowledge they need to have to even begin to tackle AI. Many, 29%, felt the price is too high. This is a very expensive proposition given all the computing power needed. 25% cite a lack of tools or platforms to develop the models needed. Same basic number said the projects are too complex and they're just too difficult to integrate into their general IT and to scale along with their organization. And finally, 24%, again, the same proportion, feel that there's just too much data complexity. Let's take each one of these individually, starting with the limited AI skills. One of the potential solutions to the limited AI skills available in many organizations is to address the problem of the 4 million. And by the 4 million, I'm referring to the 4 million open job requisitions that are in existence on our planet today. Around the world, there are 4 million jobs waiting for somebody to take them, but that somebody has to have the requisite skills. It's estimated that 800,000 of that 4 million are right here in the United States. So people are looking for people, and we talk all the time about the skills gap. Basically, what I'm saying here is that we have to figure out how to close that skills gap so that more of the 4 million job recs become jobs, people actually working. Very simply, we have two choices in approaching this, and only two. On the one hand, if we can figure out a way to get past that 4 million and find skilled people, we can hire people. But again, there's 4 million open jobs waiting and companies behind those waiting for the people you would go out and hire. So you may find yourself focusing in on who in your organization you can train, who has the potential, who has the ability to absorb what needs to be done to make AI really useful in your organization. And that kind of assessment should be starting already. You should be assessing all of your internal AI training needs. What do you need to learn, and who in your organization has the potential? Who has the necessary base skills to start taking on this kind of training effectively? Once you've identified your candidates, you have to figure out what training each one should get. Because there are lots of different roles, lots of different tasks, things that have to happen, and they all work together. So you're going to need to identify the training available and assign it appropriately to the people you've identified who have the potential to become good AI scientists. And amongst everybody in your organization, you have to enforce a continuous learning mindset. This echoes things that we've talked about in regards to DevOps. DevOps does not work unless you develop a DevOps culture across your company. Everybody has to be attuned into DevOps for DevOps to work. Same is true here. Everybody in your organization has to live inside a culture of turning AI into a partner to help them do their jobs better. And so there's going to be some culture change involved here. Our next item was that the price is too high. And listen, that can be said of a lot of things. My recommendation is start small. That is to say, don't focus on building the greatest AI engine ever. Focus on finding a problem, a process that you could automate. And then do what you need to do just to automate that one process. Learn from building that automation. Learn what techniques are available to you, what technologies are available to you, and solve that problem. Then pick another one and another one. And you'll find that going bottom up into learning more about AI will be a lot less expensive and probably a lot more efficient than starting from build the engine and let's figure out if you build it, they will come, does not operate here. This is not the field of dreams. This is the field of artificial intelligence. Outsource. For those of you who haven't embraced outsourcing yet, Outsourcing is the quickest way to knowledge. It's the quickest way to learn what you need to learn to do what you want to do. There are people out there who already know this. They already have the knowledge you want. Use them. Engage them. Pay them to come in and do the things you want to do at first, and have your people watch. Have your people shadow them and come to understand what they're doing. Develop a deeper understanding of the processes and the techniques by having somebody do them with you. And any outsourcer who tries to resist knowledge transfer is not somebody you want to engage. If they don't have a commitment to knowledge transfer, go on to the next, because they just shouldn't be doing this. Seek and destroy complexity. Every management course I've ever given or attended advises you to take a big problem and break it down into little pieces. Then solve each of the little pieces, and by the time you're done, the big problem will have solved itself. Nowhere is that truer than here in artificial intelligence. As I said earlier, start with the small processes that you need to automate. Break it down into little tiny pieces that aren't so terribly complex. And you'll find over time, as you conquer each one of those smaller things, the overall complexity becomes much more handleable, and you become much more comfortable with it. So start small, work your way up. And I can't come up with another way to say this. Go predictive. That is to say, figure out what you can do to put yourself in a place where you can really identify what's coming next, so that you can better prepare for it. Because from a management standpoint, being able to predict the next step gives you the best leg up on preparing for the next step. And so all the time that you're putting into AI and ML and related technologies, keep thinking in the back of your mind, how do I turn this into an ability to predict? And don't be proud. Let AI do the things that it can do faster for you whenever possible. You don't need to be the one to put all of the little nits into all the little places. AI can do that for you. You can focus on what happens when you've got it all put together. Next up is the lack of tools or platforms to develop models. And that is becoming less true by the minute. From the time we started this session to now, new tools have been introduced. It's ridiculous the rate at which new technologies and new tools are being introduced. My suggestion is that you put the phrase best of breed tools out of your mind. Stop thinking about tools. There are big problems with tools. Each tool requires its own training, its own support. You need to have somebody who knows how to use the tool. And if you have all of your technology people bringing their own tools, you may only have one person who knows how to operate a tool that becomes really necessary to your business. What if they leave and nobody knows how to use that tool anymore? It's very expensive when you're using a lot of different tools. Better to look for best of breed platforms where all the tools are integrated, or at least the overwhelming majority of the tools are integrated, so that it's only one set of training, one set of support. And if anybody leaves, there are other people who know how to operate the platform. Tools will very, very quickly fade, whereas platforms will go one of two ways. Platforms will either emerge and become very popular, or they'll die a dismal death very quickly. So watch for that. And of course, never install .o of anything. Again, going back to the outsourcing concept, if you're going to be installing and implementing a platform, you probably want to engage some experts to help you do it. First of all, it's something you're only going to do once. You're not going to be installing that same platform over and over and over again. So having your own people learn how to implement may not be worthwhile. But when working with the people who do the implementation, your people can learn a lot about operating the platform. So it's very, very valuable to look to experts to help you do it. And the same thing goes for building your LLMs. There are platforms that will help you build LLMs, but there's also a lot of expertise needed. There are people who have that expertise who can not only do it with you, but can train your people to do it going ahead. And again, that whole concept, knowledge transfer, right? People like me, people who are in the technology business, if they aren't into knowledge transfer, they're not in the business very long. Every client anticipates that you're going to help them become self-sufficient, and rightly so. Next item, projects are too complex or difficult to integrate and scale. Okay, please don't laugh, but choose simpler projects. This is a learning curve. And the easiest way to kill everybody's enthusiasm is to give them a super complex, super difficult, high value project to start with. Yeah, it'd be great to get high value right out of the gate, but it's not realistic. Better to start with the simpler projects, get some things done, get a couple of successes under your belt, and then you can start to tackle more and more complex issues. Choose simpler projects to get started with. And again, engage expertise. Have experts help you so that they can teach you and your people can learn faster. And then finally, too much data complexity, and I've already discussed the answer to this. Take a big problem, break it down into small pieces, and solve each of those small pieces individually. AI is an excellent place to do that because you can apply it with much greater focus than anything you've seen before. So address the complexity by breaking the problem down into smaller problems and perhaps having individual teams tackle each piece. Okay, obviously I am getting close to the end, so I'm going to go back to the beginning. In the beginning, the title of this session, of course, is Looking Around the AI Corner. Can't do that if we don't get to a corner, so I figured I'd take you to the most famous corner in the United States. Located not terribly far from me, in Winslow, Arizona. Standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. And such a fine sight to see is not necessarily a girl, my lord. It is Gartner Group. Gartner Group shows up at the corner. And they're telling us that in 2 years, almost a third of outbound marketing messages from large organizations will be generated by AI, by generative AI. That's up from less than 2% last year. So 15 times growth in 3 years. That will accelerate from there, if nothing else. So people who do marketing, I'm one of those, we have to worry. It's happening now. It's going to happen a whole lot more. Also, and this is one, you may remember that not only the writers are on strike, in part because of what's going on with AI, but actors are on strike, also in part because of what's happening with AI. And Gartner predicts that by 2030, a major blockbuster film will be released that 90% of it was generated by AI. So we've seen a lot of CGI in all the superhero movies and whatnot lately, but this is a completely different level of imitation, of synthetic reality. 90% of a film generated by AI. And the actor's complaint is that they're being photographed right now or filmed right now, video recorded, so that the AI can use those images to generate anything it needs. So they can be featured in a film without doing anything more than spending half a day getting different angles shot. Frightening? Yeah, it's frightening. But again, 2030, that's 7 years from now. That's nothing. And I personally think it's not going to take that long. It's going to be much sooner than that. Gartner also tells us that AI has given us some fantastic, valuable leaps in developing things like drugs. In 2010, it cost $1.8 billion to bring a drug to market, and it took anywhere from 3 to 6 years. Now, I want you to think in the context of the recent COVID-19 pandemic. Take yourself back to March 2020, and the pandemic breaks out, and immediately we start hearing that people are dying from this thing. Well, generative AI has cut that time down to a few months. So it suggested that without generative AI, we couldn't have come up with the vaccine that quickly. Yes, there was a lot of work done on lead-in, but clearly these techniques were used to accelerate the process of further developing the vaccines that basically enabled us to finally get out from under the major pandemic. It's still out there, people are still getting sick, but not nearly to the extent that we had back then. So very powerful, very valuable application. This is a big nail for the AI hammer. They also warn that there are threats as well as opportunities. Right now, the threats are in things like deep fakes, where you can see a video of somebody saying something you just know they would never say. It looks like them. It looks like they're saying it, but it's not. It was created by an AI by manipulating the images, manipulating the sound, so that they lip sync perfectly, and they imitate the look and sound of that person perfectly, nearly perfectly. So there's going to be a lot of legal wrangling around AI for a long time to come. Be prepared for it. The threats today are bad. The threats tomorrow could be worse. You know, there's some very bright guys out there, like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, who have both been quoted as saying what we have now is really just software running on hardware that does good things. It helps us with things. It's not intelligence, and it's certainly not super intelligence. It's not more intelligent than people. But they both predict that that day will come. Skynet will become aware. And when that happens, yeah, we do have to start worrying about what that's going to mean for the human race. We're not there yet. Don't know how long it'll take to get there. Maybe not our lifetimes. Who knows? It also talks, Technology Magazine talks about AI being used for customer-facing activities. We've all encountered chatbots helping us by collecting a lot of information before giving us over to a human operator. They absolutely see AI helping process orders, including taking an order from a customer, providing customer service. I recently interviewed a company called Crushbank that has developed a large language model that'll enable an AI engine to help information technology people, techs, support their customers. It'll actually provide support. It'll enhance their ability to deliver support. We're going to see that kind of application of AI helping different businesses provide better service more and more and more as we go forward. And it's pretty exciting. Technology Magazine also tells us that in 3 years, by 2026, in an IDC report that they're quoting, 45% of the Global 2000 are expected to use AI ML, get this, to nudge customers into unfamiliar, novel experiences to improve sentiment metrics and potential for brand upselling. You know, you learn more when you get people out of their comfort zone. They're going to use, 45% of the Global 2000 plan to use AI to get people out of their comfort zone. Can't wait to see what that turns into. Banks see AI ML as helping them provide surveillance over transactions. There's more and more crime in the transactions of equities and stocks and so forth. People can monitor this and try to catch things happening, but AI can catch much more, much faster. And so banks, 2/3 of banks see this as a great, great opportunity to cut down on the crime that costs everybody. Levity says that AI can be used to create sales forecasts, sales projections. So the salespeople in the audience will be really thrilled with that, not having to call all their customers to find out what they're buying next period. Here's the thing. It's true that AI can create great sales projections. It can collect more information about your customers than you ever imagined. And it can use that information to interpret what they would need to buy based on what it has learned. So you're going to see the ability to get a jump start on your sales forecasts thanks to AI and ML. AI and ML basically infer meaning, right? They determine inference between different images, videos, other kinds of telemetry and whatnot, and then they create, they act or recommend accordingly. Let me just say that the best application I have seen of AI has to do with two databases many of you have. One is a database of all your products. The other is a database of all your customers, with all that information that ML has gone out and found. When you run the two together, AI can generate a list of which of your products you should recommend to each of your customers, which one they are most likely to be able to want. It can then automatically send collateral out to each of your customers that's appropriate to their likeliest purchases, and then report to your salespeople so your salespeople can follow up the collateral that's already been sent out for them. Think about how many more customers a salesperson can sell to when that big chunk of work is taken off their plate. And then we'll go back to Turing, and the most prophetic thing that anybody has said about this coming around the corner. We can only see a short distance ahead. We can't see around the corner. But we can see plenty there that needs to be done. And that is very true. So I encourage all of you, very quickly, in summation, to embrace the great truths of artificial intelligence. Number one, that it is software running on hardware. It is not some mystic being suddenly being conjured out of something. AI devours data. It's all about the data. You want to focus on figuring out what the questions are. You have all the data. What are the questions? What are the things you want to know from that data? And as you ask more questions, you're going to find you get better at defining new questions. There's a wide variety of data sources, so expect much more depth to be coming back to you. But before you let anything get into your large language models, make sure it's valid. Make sure it's normalized and that the machine can deal with it. There's going to be work to be done to make data ready for consumption by AI. And once you've done it, those models can degrade over time. They can drift, and what was true isn't as clear to them as it used to be. So you have to be maintaining your large language models. And there are techniques involved that you can learn. Scott mentioned AI ops. It just seems natural to use AI ops to improve the IT environment in which your AI operates. AI ops looks at your IT operations and determines, it's predictive. It tells you what's coming that you want to deal with before it becomes a problem. So it's a great application of AI. You want to keep current with AI-related developments by attending sessions like this, by getting to know people who know a lot about AI, and there are more and more of them emerging, by identifying the sources you want to read to get more information about AI, and basically pushing aside the rest. There's too much out there. You've got to pick that which you find valuable. Always stay focused not on the processing, not on the techniques, not even on the data language, large language models, but stay focused on the better business outcomes you're looking for, the results that you're looking for, because those will guide you to make all the other decisions far better than you ever could before. Keep in mind to always come back around and determine, am I getting what I'm looking for from AI? Am I getting what I asked for? Because you can get consumed and drift away from it yourself. So force yourself back to looking, is this what I really wanted to get out of this? Am I getting what I wanted? And always think analytics, analytics, analytics. What other ways could I find to have AI analyze my data? And then finally, and this is my most heartfelt admonition, protect the planet. We're going to be sucking down a lot of electricity, powering all this hardware to run all of this AI. It's tremendously consumptive. Let's make as much of it as green as possible. Let's do our part to contribute to the extended survival of the planet, so that we can live a nice long life with AI partners helping us do it every step of the way. Thank you for your attention. Scott, if there are any questions, love to hear them.
Yeah, great presentation, Howard. And we did have a couple of requests for the slide deck, and Howard, you mentioned about it being available. So it has been added as a PDF into the handout section. So you might need to refresh your browser to see it, but it's in there if you want to grab it. And we just have a couple of minutes left here, so I'd recommend doing that now if you're interested in that. But Howard, we did get a lot of questions. We had a couple from Paul that I'm going to sort of combine. One of the things that he was asking about was what role can AI, no code or low code platforms offer in bringing AI to enterprise and IT teams who may have little AI experience?
Well, Paul, I'm hoping that you're a reader of the Citizen Developer in Application Developer Trends magazine. It's my column about no code, low code. And as a matter of fact, my next article will be about how AI will help. So I'm actually writing an answer to your question. What I see is this. Today, we can use AI to produce code. You can actually have it write programs for you. The applications I've seen so far require a developer, a professional developer, to help it create the right pieces of code and then to weave them all together. In a no-code, low-code environment, right now, you as a human being can skip over the development of code and use icons that you're moving around the screen to assemble the processes you're looking to create. It's not a big leap of imagination to think that you could be sitting there and instead of moving icons around the screen, talking to your AI, talking to your ChatGPT implementation and saying, okay, we need a program that will take all of our transactions and analyze them for average volume, average this, mean that, blah, blah, blah. And it will produce a usable program that you can then run immediately. As with the programs that we're developing today in no-code, low-code, you will probably benefit most by giving those pieces of program to a developer to weave together into a larger solution. But I do see the day where basically the process of creating new software is a process of conversing with an AI and letting the AI go out and gather the necessary data through ML and build the application you're looking for.
Yeah, really interesting, and I imagine it's a bit of a ways off. Closer than we certainly all thought, a year ago. But
Yep.
It's one of those things like where you look at as a writer, and you do a ChatGPT request, and what comes back is really interesting and kind of like 70% there, but really still requires some expertise to separate like the fake links, and the BS references
Sure.
that it's just pulled from the internet. But on the other hand, like if you hand that output, like you said, to a real
With,
developer,
with
yeah,
low code, no code, there's more ground to cover. You have to go further. So 70% won't cut it for a citizen developer. So we're going to have to. It is going to take some time. But again, everything that I've ever said would take 5 years has taken a year. It's just scary. But it's like it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, the only place where that's not true is self-driving cars. I don't know that you've ever made any predictions about that, but everything that's supposed to be 5 years is not.
I have
Um,
predicted how many deaths it's going to take before they stop trying.
yeah,
But I'm not a pessimist about most things. That I just still don't feel comfortable. But that's me.
gotcha. And we've got time probably for one more question, and we'll give the floor to Paul again because he's kind of landed on your sort of closing point. Um, Asking what's the best way to make AI and HPC and data centers more sustainable and green, um, especially with its huge energy, operational cost, and data footprint.
Yeah, and I mean the answers are in front of us. Um, I don't say that to be insulting or cast aspersions, but to make a statement about where we currently are. I live in, as I mentioned, Arizona. There's enough sunlight here to power the world for 1,000,000 years. It's just ridiculous, and I've got the sunburn to prove it. Um, there are existing methods to build solar panel farms, wind farms. There's plenty of ways to generate more than enough energy in and around a major data centers at this point are enormous, and they take up a lot of real estate, and there's a lot of real estate around them. And there's nothing that stops us from building more and more solar and wind generation capability. At first, that may only defray a portion of the power we need to generate. But over time, as the technology gets better, and it is getting better all the time, as the technology gets better and our intelligence about using it gets better, we will get to a place where literally every data center can be completely self sustaining. And when that day comes, it's going to change the political landscape about how people think about data centers and data, and the involvement of local, state, and federal government. The things that stop us now, the obstructions that government actually puts in place, it won't be possible anymore. So we need to develop it further. Scott's right; it's going to take some time, but I think that that's really the answer we're both waiting for. Um, to protect the planet while we're learning to do things better and better with help of our digital buddies.
I like that framing, Howard. Digital buddies. It's certainly much more optimistic than
Yeah,
talking about Skynet or whatever. And
yeah,
it is a good goal to think about. This is what we want to create: is digital buddies, digital helpers. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, Howard, I think we're gonna have to leave it there. But thanks as always for putting together a thought provoking presentation and for all your insights here in the Q&A. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. And I know I've learned a lot about AI in this hour.
Oh, thank you, Scott, and I hope that's true of the rest of you. Thank you all for your kind attention. Thank you, Scott, for inviting me.
Of course. And so before we wrap up, we have one more piece of business, and that is the Amazon gift card for today. So we have a $250 Amazon gift card, and the winner is Dr. Patrick Wolf from Idaho. So congratulations to Dr. Wolf. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank our sponsors for making this event possible. They're Pure Storage and Palo Alto Networks. And thanks as always for attending and for all your great questions today. That concludes our event. Have a fantastic rest of your day and a great weekend, and we hope to see you next time.